Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I'm going to talk about science fiction anthology as is shown in the graphic novel or graphic form in the comic books. So this is World's Unknown #1. It's an anthology book. It features two stories, and this is a memorable, for me, a memorable issue because I've had it since my teen years. This is a story uh, by Frederick Brown, and it's called The Day After the Martians Came. And it's beautifully drawn, visualized, um, and who the artist is Ralph Reese, and scripters Jerry Conway, based on the story by Frederick Brown. Beautifully drawn, with fine detail and fine art, basically. Um, it really is, as you can gather from the images, um, a story about prejudice. The next story is famous. It's probably, this is from this is from Astonishing. The art is by Angelo Torres. Simple story, fantasy, really. And it's basically a reprint. And this is another original adaptation. This is by Gil Kane, who's the artist and the scripter for this. This is one of the most famous of the writings of this fellow. His name is Edmond Hamilton, and the story that's showcased here in the comic book is pictured on the front cover of this book. This is a Del Rey SF. It's a well-read one with a cracked spine. A good reading copy from the Science Fiction Book Club selection. It's edited by Lee Brackett, who, if you've watched my previous episode, was the wife of the writer of this anthology, Edmond Hamilton. She's the one who selected the stories for this book, for this anthology book. And of course, it has some of his best, literally his best. The Man Who Evolved, The Accursed Galaxy, Easy Money and He That Hath Wings, Requiem, After Judgment Day, The Pro, and so on. But anyway, this one is beautifully visualized by, the story is beautifully visualized by Gil Kane, basically telling the story of this young baby who was born with wings. The name of the child is named by the doctor as David Rand, and tells the story of how he grew up on this isolated island. The doctor who basically raised him, kind of protected him from the public. And he was unready for the world, basically, so he gets accidentally shot by these hunters, taken to a hospital, where he meets a woman, falls in love, and then he has to make a decision about his wings. And he takes his wings off, but then after a while he becomes disillusioned with the life of normal life, I guess. And again, eventually he starts to sprout wings. It is one of the best written short stories by Hamilton. A great craftsman. Basically, and this is what the artist does. He lets the text just flow and depicts the uh, the main character of the short story. David Rand. All right, so that's that one. That's Worlds Unknown, #1, and it features a story by Edmond Hamilton and Frederick Brown. Issue #3 has this surprising story. It was made into a film. It was called The Day the Earth Stood Still. But this actually follows the story very closely by Harry Bates. The writer-editor of the story is Roy Thomas. The artist is Ross Andrew and Wayne Howard. It is beautifully visualized, and it's actually closer to Harry Bates' original story, which varies in certain important details from the original. We're introduced to Klaatu, and that's how he's visualized in the short story by Bates. Bates was an important science fiction editor, writer, in that he is credited with being the one who really invented what we would call pure SF science fiction. Thanks to his work on Astounding, as editor of Astounding for the brief time that he was editor. Anyway, so this is the adaptation that really follows closely to the original idea of the story. I'll just flip through the pages, but I won't tell you how it ends. You'll have to find out for yourself. All right. So that's Worlds Unknown #3, and it showcases The Day the Earth Stood Still by Harry Bates, one of the unheralded legends of the early years of science fiction. And this is Arena by Frederick Brown. I think Frederick Brown has been mentioned a few times in different shows on YouTube. And this one is basically a story, you can tell by the title, of a battle between an alien and a human. Something that one of the episodes of Star Trek, the one that featured the alien Gorn, where Captain Kirk ends up on this planet and ends up fighting with this alien. This is that story. So anyway, it's quite it's all action. So it's a comic book writer and comic book writer's dream. It also has a reprint from one of the earlier Marvel stories called Lost in One World. And I'm not sure who the artist is. I can make a guess, but I don't think I will. I don't want to, yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, so the artist for Arena here is John Buscema, and Dick Giordano did the inking. Jerry Conway is the one who wrote the script, from the adaptation by the story by Frederick Brown. So that's Worlds Unknown from the short story Arena. This next one is by A.E. Van Vo, and this one's called The Black Destroyer, and that's how it's visualized. This is issue #5 of Worlds Unknown. The scripter is Roy Thomas. The artists are Dan Adkins and Jim Mooney. And it's an SF story, as it says here, by A. Van Vo. Basically, as I was reading through it, I realized it follows the plots of the film, what it looks to me to be like Alien, the film with Sigourney Weaver and John Hurt. So the alien here is a kind of looks like a Black Panther, basically with tendrils. All right, it is nicely drawn. Can't complain. The story is well written, and it does follow the plot of the short story by Vano. All right, and I don't think this ever appeared. Day of the Triffids. I don't think issue number 6 was Day of the Triffids. Anyway, so that's number 5, Worlds Unknown, A Black Destroyer by A.E. Vano. All right, and we'll go back to Andromeda. And this is Andromeda number 4. This one features Jack Vance's The Narrow Land short story. The art is by BP. The art is by Tom Nesbitt, and it was adapted by BP Nickel. The story of an alien who is basically shunned from his own society and is forced to make his way. It's nicely drawn. The art captures I think, the essence of the short story, with the detail and, of course, using some of the original text. All right, so that's that one. You can see it quite expressive despite the unique features of the main protagonists, who are basically, not basically, but are aliens. All right, so that's that one. That's Andromeda number 4, and it's adapting Jack Vance's The Narrow Land. And this is one of my favorite writers, or one of the writers I read years ago. When I read Walter M. Miller's The Canticle for Leibowitz. This is one of his short stories. Canticle for Leibowitz being when I read it, I realized it was a fix-up novel. It was kind of episodic in its style. I mean, what it conveyed obviously was an important meaning in the destruction, people's wallowing into ignorance, basically because of the destruction of knowledge. That was the basic theme, I think, of Miller's Canticle for Leibowitz. This is one of his short stories, and if you, as we flip through it, you'll get some hints of what he's like. The Big Hunger, it's called. And here we have a spaceship, so it takes place in space. And then you have a primitive culture. The Big Hunger, written by Walter M. Miller, adapted for comics by BP Nickel. Has some nice visualizations. The art by Tony Mears is nice. You can see Kyrie, Kyrie, Kyrie. Again, using that, yeah. You need to always think about how we know and how we understand reality, and never be overconfident in presuming um, that we know it all. And basically, Miller's really the one who really explores these issues deeply, I think, in many of his short stories and novels. Sorry, and novel. I don't remember him writing any other novel besides uh, Canticle for Leibowitz, and even that it reads like a compilation of short stories. Okay, so that's The Big Hunger by Walter M. Miller, and that's Andromeda number 5. This next one is also quite beautiful. This features 2 Alan Dean Foster short stories. Beautifully nice bright cover, still black and white. And we have Alan Dean Foster's Why Johnny Can't Speed. And basically, on its basic level, it keeps much of the text of the original short story, but it's told mostly in visualizations. Interesting, interesting, interesting. There's no other way to describe it. All right. And then there's this one, The Metronome by Alan Dean Foster, illustrated by Nesbitt. And you can tell it's mostly text, where the gnome plays a minor role, or a major role, sorry, major role. So it retains much of the text of the original story. All right, very good artwork, by the way. All right, so that's Andromeda number 6, featuring 2 stories, Metronome and Why Johnny Can't Speed by Alan Dean Foster. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this look at comic books and their adaptations of very famous short stories by some of the world's greatest science fiction writers. And if you did, remember to give me that thumbs up, the like. Thanks everyone for subscribing. The channel continues to grow, slow but sure. And as always, feel free to comment and maybe tell me what is your favorite graphic adaptation of a science fiction story, or even for that matter, a fantasy story. All right, thanks. Bye.